attendance. Thank you, Kevin. Okay. Steve Stowe, president, is here. Jennifer Hugh, first vice president. Jen, are you here? Okay, we'll come back. Elizabeth Chan, second vice president.
Here.
Vito Lavella, recording secretary, is excused. Marie Brugueras, treasurer, is excused. Liping Zhang. Yeah. Joyce.
Hi, Stephen. Hi, how are you doing?
Hey, Gata.
Hi.
Joyce is here. Gata Amin.
Here.
Maya Rosenblatt. Yona Isufi. Yona, can you hear me? I saw her just jump in. I see Yona is here. We'll give her a here. Kevin Zhao is going to be late. And that is it. And so we have.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Yona. We do have 6, so we can start the meeting. Okay. Roll call. And I'm officially supposed to announce members that are participating remotely. So participating remotely, we have, it looks like Gata Amin is participating remotely, as is Yona Isufi. So Kevin, can you share the agenda for tonight, please? So the agenda for tonight's meeting, approval of the minutes from last month, report of superintendent, council president report. Yona Isufi will present some IEP compliance data, and then we'll have our public speaking session. And then immediately following the calendar meeting, we will have the business meeting. We'll be approving the old minutes, and then we'll have a discussion of the parent coordinator hiring process, discussion of school liaison visits, and we have a budget item to add as well that we'll address. So thank you, Kevin. So official good evening. Welcome everyone to the November CEC 20 calendar meeting. We are delighted to be holding the meeting at PS 69, the Vincent Grippo School. Thanks to Principal Kapitanakis for hosting us. Before we get started, there are a few important announcements I would like to make. First, I just want to remind everyone that this is a public meeting. It is being recorded. For council members, please keep yourself muted unless you are speaking. We will start without using a mic, but if we need to, we have mics available if individuals online cannot hear us speaking. For any members participating remotely, please make sure your name is shown on your Zoom screen and that your camera is on. For members speaking here, please make sure your placard is available and visible. Second, I want to announce that there are Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin interpreters here. They are providing interpretation services only for virtual meeting participants. You should see video of these interpreters. Thank you to them for being here and providing this important service to our Spanish, Arabic, and Mandarin speaking community. They will now announce instructions for any attendees who may wish to dial into the language lines at this time. Could our Arabic interpreters please make their introduction?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for having us today. So the following statement will be in the Arabic language. لاستماع الاجتماع باللغة العربية يرجى الاتصال على رقم 34796641114 وإدخال رقم التعريف 494801961 علامة المربع. لاستماع الاجتماع باللغة العربية يرجى الاتصال على رقم 34796641114 وإدخال رقم التعريف 494801961 علامة المربع. إذا كنت تريد سماع صوت الترجمة باللغة العربية ولكن تريد البقاء في غرفة اجتماعات زوم على جهاز الكمبيوتر الخاص بكم في نفس الوقت، يرجى كتم الكمبيوتر والاتصال هاتفيا على خط المؤتمرات اللغوي. مجددا رقم هاتف المؤتمرات اللغوي هو 34796641114 ورقم التعريف هو 494801961 علامة المربع. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank
ممكن
you
لو
so much.
سمحت إنه تكتب الرقم على الشات. Would you mind to please provide the Arabic translation number on chat, please?
Yes, absolutely. I will.
Great, thank you so much. Could our Mandarin interpreter please introduce themselves? Can Mandarin interpreter Max Chen, can you hear me? While we're waiting on that, let's go on to our Spanish interpreter. Can our Spanish interpreters please introduce themselves?
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Eric. I'll be your Spanish interpreter for this evening. El siguiente mensaje sería para nuestros hablantes de español. Para poder ingresar a la línea, por favor, marque el siguiente número al 347-966-4114 con el número de identificación 941-029-459 con señal de gato. Que tengan muy buena tarde. Hasta luego.
Okay, thank you. And is our Mandarin
Yes.
interpreter
Yeah,
here?
available now. I'm sorry.
No problem.
Okay. My name is Max Chen. I'm the Chinese interpreter. I will speak the Chinese right now. OK， 各位家长，今天参与的CEC 的11月份的行事历，如果需要中文翻译专线，请拨打347-966-4114，然后 ID 密码为372-008-319，请知好。再重述一次中文翻译专线为347-966-4114， ID 密码372-008-319，请知好。请务必登录这个电话号码之后，把你的麦克风关静音，以免背景嘈杂，造成翻译人员甚至其他家长在听这个翻译过程造成一些困扰。OK， 谢谢你。OK，Thank you. I'm finished.
Great, thank you. Just a reminder, because we will have interpretation throughout the meeting, it is very important that everyone tries to speak slower than usual to allow the interpreters to keep up. Third, later tonight, we will hold a public comment session. If you would like to sign up for public speaking, please sign up on the form located online at the CEC website in the meeting announcement. You can also, for anyone in person, there should be a sign-up form available at the table. And if Kevin, can you also post the link to the form in the chat periodically throughout the night? Thank you. Okay. That's all for administrative items. Okay. So the first order of business is to approve the minutes from last month's calendar meeting. Kevin, can you share those, please, on the screen? So council members, please just review the meetings. Kevin will scroll through, and if there are any changes, please speak up. Okay. Does anyone have any changes to the minutes? Okay. Hearing no changes, the minutes are approved. Can I just ask, Max, can you also post in the chat the Mandarin number? Same as the Spanish and Arabic have done, please. Thank you.
Yes, but currently I try to post the chart. It's down in there. I'm not sure what's going on.
Sorry, can you say that again, Max?
I try to copy and paste regarding the email and type the Mandarin, but I click the chart, didn't pop up.
Oh, is the chat enabled for you? Are you able to?
I won't
Never mind.
able to to let me post it.
Okay,
So
we're good.
That's why.
Kevin's taking care of it here. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so no changes to the minutes. The minutes are approved. Okay, first speaking tonight, since we're here at PS 69, I just wanted to give the school, Principal Kaptanakis or any school representative, a chance to introduce PS 69. So, sure.
Good evening. On behalf of my assistant principals, Mrs. Joanne Yenser and Ms. Lisa Fernandez, we wanted to welcome everyone to PS 69. We appreciate this opportunity to host our community superintendent, Dr. Credo, CEC President Stowe, and the CEC officers. Thank you for this opportunity as we come together as a community to support our schools and the academic excellence of District 1. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jane. Thanks.
I'm sorry, we couldn't hear anything that Mr. C said on Zoom.
Okay, that's good to know. So this is good feedback. So we should have had maybe a laptop closer to her unmuted. Was that laptop was muted? That one was muted. Mine was muted because I didn't want any feedback, but we should have had like the closest laptop. Mine was muted when Jane was speaking. Anyway, it's fine. Well, yeah, anyway. Principal
Actually, I was able to hear her, so maybe only some of the viewers did not hear, but I was able to hear her.
Okay, that's good to know. Again, this hybrid meeting stuff is a work in progress, so we're trying. But she welcomed everyone to the school and spoke about how important it is for us to be here as a community supporting the school system of District 20, and paid credit to her assistant principals and parent coordinator. So Superintendent Preto, are you ready for your remarks?
I'm ready.
Great.
Okay, good evening, District 20. Before anything, I just want to wish everybody a advance happy Thanksgiving, which is next week. I'm going to share my screen. Oh, Kevin, could you enable me? Thanks. There we go. Okay, so today I'll touch upon 4 topics: the middle school screen admissions update. I'll do a presentation on the NICESLAT data from the previous year and do some comparisons to 2021. We'll have a brief presentation on the role of the parent coordinator by family leadership coordinator, and family support coordinator. And then I will give it an overview on health education in the New York City DOE. So just an update on the middle school screen program process in District 20. So students who will apply to screen programs in the district they'll be admitted based off of a composite score of their 4th grade core course grades, which is English language arts, math, social studies, and science. And this is a citywide. And this is a citywide screening tool. The application and admission will be based on a combination of where applicants rank the school on their application and the student composite score. And in District 20, there are 5 total programs that children can apply to. At IS 187, Krista McAuliffe, there are 3 programs, the Business and Law Academy, Arts and Humanities Academy, Science and Research Academy. At IS 21, Madeline Brennan, there is the Law Studies Screen Program. And then finally at Junior High School 259, William McKinley, there's the Independent Investigations Method, or IIM program. So the programs at Krista McAuliffe, there are 3 academies, and the academy structure at IS 187 allows students to explore various career fields through core subjects, which are ELA, social studies, science, and math, and then a variety of choices within electives. And I've provided a couple of examples of electives that children could explore through their 3 years within the academy structure at Krista McAuliffe. So students who are admitted to the Academy of Business and Law could and likely will experience electives including debate, constitutional law, and business marketing. In the Academy of Science and Research, the electives include choices on sports management, civic engineering, and Science Olympiad, which is a new initiative in the district, but something that is happening at Krista McAuliffe. And then finally, in the Academy of Arts and Humanities, electives include theater, stagecraft, and digital design. The screen program at the Madeline Brennan School is a law studies program. So this program seeks to build student understanding of the law and legal concepts, basic skills in the use of law, enhance understanding of justice, and analyze implications for public policy. The program will use an interdisciplinary approach to connect social studies with key texts that are studied in English language arts and science. And then students will expect to engage in debate competitions, analyze landmark trials and Supreme Court decisions, and then write and conduct actual mock trials over the course of their 3 years in the program. And then at the screened program at 20K259, William McKinley, which is an independent investigations method, or IIM. This is a program that utilizes an inquiry-based process that involves students in their own learning, empowers them to access information with the goal of fostering independent, responsible, confident, and excited researchers. Students expect to learn research skills and the IIM process through a focus on social studies content, primarily, especially in the first year or in 6th grade. And through 7th and 8th grade, this grows into applying the research process to scientific concepts such as stem cells and forensics, just as some examples. And then in 8th grade, students in this program conduct 1 year-long independent research project, and topics can include, but don't necessarily include, but can include social justice, STEM, business, law and government, journalism, media, and the arts, some examples. As an additional follow-up, and I've mentioned this prior to the announcement of the programs that will be screened in the upcoming year, I am coordinating a task force on what's known as the superintendent program in District 20. District 20 has a long history of screened programs in middle school, and which was called previously the Superintendent Gifted Program. And through this process, it's become abundantly clear to me that it's really important to explore the development of a potential program that carries this name and is focused on accelerated and advanced opportunities for students across the district. So I'm beginning in December of 2022. So next month, I'm going to be seeking out principals and parent leaders from the CEC, as well as from President's Council, to explore potential programming possibilities for a district-wide superintendent program. So, after Thanksgiving, I will be sending out invitations to CEC, as well as President's Council, to engage in conversations and explore different programming possibilities, both between things that currently exist in some district schools, as well as some potential possibilities that don't yet exist in district schools, and to gain feedback, explore the potential possibility of forming a district-wide program to implement in the future. Next, I just want to cover the NYSESLAT results. So in previous meetings, I did cover the state results for ELA and math. So I've compiled a presentation on the NYSESLAT results. We did, for the state exam, we compared results between the years of 2019 and 2022 for a variety of reasons, but namely in 2020, no exam being given. In 2021, a very low number of students participating in the exam. In 2021, there was a lower number of students participating in the NYSESLAT, but a larger proportion of students participating. So we decided to do comparison between 2021 and 2022. You'll notice the participation rates at the top. So we have about 8,000 students who take the NYSESLAT in the district. 7,914 took it last year, compared to 2021, which was a number of 4,683. So it is less students. It was a lower participation rate due to the pandemic, but these are the numbers that I decided to do the comparison for. In the bar graph, as well as at the top, you'll see the number of students scoring at the 5 different levels that the NYSESLAT measures student progress towards becoming English proficient. So the 5 levels are entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding, and commanding. And commanding is the level at which students are no longer considered English language learners and transition to what we consider or call former Ls. And former Ls, for 2 years after they score commanding on the NYSESLAT, continue to receive English as a new language services, just for a reduced number of minutes per week. So students who are transitioning and expanding receive 180 minutes per week, and entering emergent students receive 360 minutes per week. Former Ls receive 90 minutes of ENL support and instruction per week for the 2 years following achieving commanding on the NYSESLAT. And you'll see that across the district, we had in 2022, we had about 6% scoring at entering, 13% scoring at emerging, 19% scoring at transitioning, almost 37% scoring at expanding, and 25% scoring at commanding. And compared to, and at similar rates to 2021, less test takers, but at similar rates. Something that's important to note about the NYSESLAT is that it is given every year to students who are English language learners, and the test levels are given at grade bands. So kindergartners and first graders take the same exam, second and third graders take the same exam, fourth and fifth take the same exam, and so on and so forth.
How long is the exam?
It comes in different parts. There's a speaking component, a speaking and listening component, a reading component, and a writing component. So it's given over the course of, there's 4 different parts, and it's given in a variety of one-on-one individual components, and then a class component for the reading and the writing. And this is the NYSESLAT progress by level. This is getting a sense of how many students maintain, the percentage of students who stayed at the same level, the percentage of students who moved a level up, the percentage of students who moved 2 levels up, 3 levels up, and then how many actually moved 1 level back or even 2 levels back. So the blue bar represents the the percentage of students who stayed at the same level as the previous year, which is about 37% stayed at the same level. 43% of students went up 1 level, so moved from entering to emerging or from transitioning to commanding, transition to expanding. 10% of students went up 2 levels. 4% of students went up 3 levels. A very small percentage went up 4 levels, and then we had a small percentage of students who went 1 level back. And you can see the actual percentages at the very bottom. That very bottom chart gives the actual percentage.
Should I jump in with questions?
Sure.
As we're going. You know me, I love to compare this, and the data looks great individually. If you can go back 1 slide,
Sure.
And then how does this compare to the city? That's sort of always my favorite question.
I don't know. Like I could look into that. The dynamic of the NICESLAT in District 20 compared to other districts. District 20 has a very significantly high percentage of English language learners. So we have a lot of students who take the test. So comparisons with the NICESLAT to other districts is going to be like a somewhat more difficult comparison to make versus the ELA or the math test, where you know that all students are required to take it. The percentage of English language learners really determines the number of students who take it. But I could definitely work with Central to develop some kind of comparison.
If it's not, I mean,
Yeah.
If it's not too much work, don't worry about it. And another question I had, I'm curious, do we see a big difference between our Mandarin speakers, Spanish speakers, Arabic speakers in these subgroupings? Is it available? I'm not necessarily asking for more data right now. I'm just sort of, it just occurred to me kind of looking at this, if you know off the top of your head.
I'd have to look into it. It's not something I know off the top of my head. It's not something that we necessarily track closely. We're really, with the NICESLAT, you're really looking for English proficiency. So we look across all students and all speakers of all languages.
Okay.
And just they're tracking through the progress and development of English.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are your A results.
These are the NICESLAT results. So this is the New York State English Language Assessment test. This is for all students who are currently English language learners. So they take this specific test every year, and based off of how they do on this test, they're identified on a particular level of how the student is acquiring English, either at the entering level, which is the earliest level, all the way up to commanding, which is essentially kind of passing out and being considered fully commanding of English. Yeah.
David, if students are advancing through the grades, let's say there's a student who's advancing through elementary school, for example, and they get to maybe 5th grade, and they still haven't achieved commanding. And I know we've talked a little bit about middle schools and getting more bilingual programs in middle schools and whatnot. And just curious, is the staffing and support in place that if, let's say, a student still hasn't got commanding by 5th grade, can they continue on into middle school and just continue learning and sort of continue taking the test? Is there any?
No, it's required by law. So every school at minimum has a staff who are licensed to support students in English as a new language.
Okay.
At a bare minimum. The bilingual programs is an additional component. That's something that we strive to provide in different contexts. So you can have English language learners, and we do have many that receive their services through a bilingual program like transitional bilingual or dual language. But all schools, and this is all schools across the city, in the state, provide English as a new language services through, at very least, ESL or ENL instruction.
Okay. So this data that we're looking at here, is this K through 8?
Yes.
This is everything.
This is K to 8.
This is all K to 8. And if a student had to continue on into high school, they would sort of continue. I mean, the NICESLAT is a K through 12 until you pass out of it. You continue to take it. That's right.
And you take it no matter when, at what point you enter into the system. So there's a lot that happens within this data. Students who enter into the system at kindergarten begin taking the NYSESLAT at kindergarten. If you enter into the system at 6th grade, you begin taking the NYSESLAT at 6th grade, and depending on where you're at in comparison to the NYSESLAT at that grade level, that's where you score on.
Okay. Okay. Is any goals? Like, are there, are you happy with this data? Are you, do you have sort of a goal in mind or anything?
The goal is always to get children to commanding. That's always the goal. We have a few goals. So, for example, one goal that we have is really to support students who are what we consider long-term Ls. These are children who have taken the NYSESLAT for more than, I want to say, at least 3 years and sometimes 4. And children are still not passing out. So that's one group of students that we really try to reduce the number of dramatically and provide support for. Our district does a really good job of supporting students in passing out of the NYSESLAT, is how we determine it, achieving commanding. When they enter in at kindergarten, we have a great track record and tremendous structure for supporting students passing out of the NYSESLAT at early grades. One challenge and that's really attributed to the strong programming and service in the district, and also children at a young age being more able to take on language. As children get older, it gets more difficult. So as children enter into the system at later ages, it's more of a challenge for children to be able to take on the language at a commanding level, and it requires more support on the part of the school to be able to do that. So that's a focus that we have because it's a bigger challenge.
I got one question too. You say the kids even in a commanding school already, they still be able to stay there for 2 years for transition?
Absolutely. So once children achieve the commanding level, they still are entitled by law to receive 90 minutes per week of ENL instruction or support by an ENL teacher, and that can happen in a variety of ways for the next 2 years. And so ENL instruction can happen, it has to happen by a licensed teacher. So either a teacher licensed in ESL or bilingual certified. There's a variety of licenses that achieve the goal. And then the services can be provided in a variety of ways. However, those 90 minutes, as well as the 180 minutes that students who are transitioning and expanding receive, is received in a co-teaching model. The children are not pulled out of class to receive the services. The support, the teacher pushes into the class and co-teaches with the general education teacher. For entering and emerging students, they receive 360 minutes of instruction per week. 180 of those minutes, or half, are provided in a pull-out standalone service. So the teacher will pull the children out of the class and teach them in a group with just students who are entering and emerging. And then the other 180 minutes are provided in a push-in or co-teaching model.
Thank you.
Yep.
And any issues with staffing here? We're always hearing about bilingual teachers. Good teachers are bilingual are hard to find. Any staffing?
We're staffed to support students in English as a new language services. The bilingual programs are not a mandated service. Providing ENL services is like the larger umbrella, and bilingual programs as a subcategory is like one method by which you can provide services, but it's not a requirement. However, you were required to provide ENL services. So we're staffed to provide ENL services. Bilingual certified teachers is an area where we're really trying to, we do have some challenges. It's a shortage area, and it's something that I've been working on and will continue to work on, ensuring that we're able to staff. We really struggle, especially with bilingual special ed certified. This is a dual certification of students who have IEPs that require a bilingual teacher who's also certified in special ed to service them.
But like you said, for ENL,
overall ENL, yes,
core instruction that we're looking at this that leads you to the NYSESLAT.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on this, council members? Okay.
Okay. And I had just included a couple slides on the ELA proficiency of Ls, and I only provided this not to be confusing, but students who are Ls after their first year must take the state exam in ELA as well. So not only are they taking the NICESLAT, they're also taking the ELA exam.
After first year of receiving.
After first year of entering into the system.
Okay.
So if a child enters into the system at third grade and they're classified as an English language learner, they won't take the ELA test that first year. They're excused the first year, but they have to take it the second year, no matter what their level is on the NICESLAT.
Got it. Okay.
And students who are English language learners on their first year must take the math test no matter what.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
The math test can be provided in other languages, so you can take it. You can get a Mandarin version of the test or an Arabic version of the test.
Okay.
But they must take the test.
Okay.
And this just documents this just documents the percentage of students and how they performed on the ELA exam for Ls. So the thing that we were just really proud of this year was that you'll see in the dark blue at the bottom at the all grades, you'll see that it says 21. So 21% of English language learners in the district were also scored level 3 and 4 on the state exam, that's up from 13% from 2019. And in every single grade there was an increase. So we were proud of that.
Good. Yeah, definitely.
This is just a comparison. We also had a 13% decrease of Ls who were scoring level 1.
Yep. Great.
We also included for students with disabilities. So we had 20% of students with disabilities scoring level 3 and 4 in 2019, and we had about 27% of students with disabilities scoring 3 and 4 on the ELA exam in 2022, which was we had an increase in every grade except for 4th grade, and a decrease of level 1s of 11%. Math, however, we had declines. So we had an overall increase of level 1s. And this is English language learners taking the math exam. We had an increase of students who scoring level 1 and a decrease of students who scored levels 2, 3, and 4. So this is obviously a big focus area of ours, is improvement in math. Okay. Next. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'll go back.
You don't have to go back anywhere, but this is probably way too into the weeds. But on the students with disabilities, it's also interesting to think about that captures a wide range of disabilities, right?
Yes.
Physical, speech, neuro. And so I just wonder, I assume that, I don't know if this is true, but are there any themes within that data that certain groups are, do better, certain groups need more support? Like, is it possible to say, I'm not asking for more data coming back in the next meeting. I'm just sort of curious about that.
In general, like when we're looking at the students with disability subgroup, we look at the subgroup from a district level and from a school level overall. This is a demographic. Right. Teachers, grade levels, individual teachers look at that data very specifically because they're the people who are working directly with the child, and then they're going to dig into those the background and the needs of that child individually to address.
Is it even, my simple sort of knowledge of this is saying, okay, if someone has a speech disability, they're probably the nicest it might be more, sorry, the state test, we're talking about students with disabilities, might be more challenging, or is that not correct versus like a physical disability?
There's a lot of variables that go into it. It's not real. We're not able to delineate by specific disability and make comparisons between like individual disabilities and make any conclusions about what, how that disability is trending overall in terms of performance. It's not something, once you get beyond just a student being classified as a disability, it's individual.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
The one thing that we will look at from a larger point of view is from the level of restriction of the environment. So if the student is classified for self-contained or 12 to 1-to-1 classes or an ICT class or sets, that's something that we might look at. Yeah. But beyond that, the teacher and the grade team and the coaches, the instructional supports are going to look individually at those students' needs. And then I wanted to invite Bill Chin and Sylvia to speak briefly to the role of the parent coordinator. I think Bill is going to do so in request to
Thank you. Let me just make a quick comment for
No
the
problem.
members online. So CEC members, this was a request. What we want to just have a quick conversation about here is the role of the parent coordinator, because under the mayoral control, the extension of mayoral control law that was signed a few months ago, CECs now have the ability to provide advisory sort of input on the hiring of parent coordinators. And, you know, for me, I thought it was helpful to sort of make sure I understood fully the role of parent coordinator as we begin to, you know, possibly sit in on more of these meetings. So, so go ahead, Bill.
Good evening, everybody. Parent coordinators' duties and responsibilities includes the following: increase parent involvement in the school by working closely with all school, parent, and community organizations. Serve as facilitator for parent and school community concerns and issues, including, for example, school policy or facility issues. Conduct outreach to engage parents in their children's education. Convene regular parent meetings and events around topics of key concerns to parents. Attend parent meetings along with the principal where appropriate. Work with the school parent association where needed to provide assistance in establishing bylaws, holding elections, and conducting their affairs in accordance with Chancellor's Reg A660. Serve as a school liaison to central and field-based parent support staff. Maintain ongoing contact with community organizations that are involved with providing services to the school's educational program. And organize back to school and other events to increase parental and community involvement and create a welcoming school environment to parents. Those are the main duties and responsibilities. There could be other things that the principal asks the parent coordinator to do, because the principal is the direct supervisor of the parent coordinator. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. What's the hiring process now that we might be participating in that in some fashion? What's the official hiring process for a parent coordinator?
Sylvia kind of like knows that more.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Usually when there is an opening in the school for parent coordinator's position, the principal works with our HR department to do a posting. Postings are actually posted on the Department of Education website where people have access to it, and candidates apply through the system. Then principal usually looks at the candidates, invites them to the interviews, and recently either invites the CEC member that is a liaison to their school to either sit on the interviews, or if they already went through some interviews and they see a good prospective candidates, they may want to introduce the final candidate to a CEC for a consultation.
It could be either one of those.
Yes.
Any CEC members have questions about this? And I want to stress one more thing, which is this is not required of us. The law reads, I can't remember the exact language, but the law reads something to the effect of CECs shall be asked. So the schools are supposed to ask us, but again, consult. And so that can mean sort of a number of different things, but it's, it's something I think is a good idea, and, time permitting, I think we should all entertain the requests when they come through. Kevin's done a nice job of forwarding a couple of those requests from principals, and I've sat in on one now, and it was really helpful just to sort of meet. It was at the end stage of the interviews, and it was really helpful to meet the woman who, she was a great candidate. I almost looked at it more as like a chance to meet her for the first time, knowing full well she was going to be hired. and just sort of build a connection with the school that way. So, and I think there's okay. One, sorry to interrupt from the parent coordinator discussion. I'm getting a note in the chat, the Spanish line. Can the Spanish interpreter or the person managing the Spanish line please let the, I guess, the Spanish interpreters look like they've been kicked out, I guess. So Steve Weezer, are you able to address that? I'm getting both Spanish interpreters saying they were getting kicked out of the line and they're in the waiting room.
Yeah, I'm on it. I see it. I don't know why that happened, but I'm on it.
Steve, can you attend to that? Okay.
We are now on. Thank you.
Well, okay. Thanks, Steve. Any other questions on that? CEC members, parent coordinator role? Okay. Back to you, David.
And last slide. So there was a request around health education and health curriculum. So there is no prescribed health curriculum. However, there is a health education scope and sequence that the Department of Education has put together. So I've put together an overview of the health education scope and sequence. So it's drawn from a variety of sources, including New York State health standards, the National Health Education Standards, and the National Sexuality Education Standards. The scope and sequence is broadly defined as a skills-based approach to health education in areas identified as critical to students' ability to becoming successful learners who adopt and maintain healthy behaviors. The topics are these bullet points below of personal health and safety, nutrition and physical activity, social, emotional, and mental health, alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use prevention, growth and development, and disease and illness prevention, specifically targeting in on HIV and AIDS. And these topics are all in one way or another aligned to either risk behaviors that are identified by the CDC, chancellor's regulations, or and or New York State mandates. Some align with both.
Mm-hmm. So each of these, so the top New York State health standards, National Health Education Standards, National Sexuality Education Standards, these are all written sort of bodies of standards, if you will.
That's right.
That are available. If one was to Google those,
you could get them.
You could find each one of those three, and that's what forms on a sort of a
that's right
my basis. Okay, this is New York City DOE, and this is across the DOE. What you sort of presented here. That's right.
This is the DOE scope and sequence, and these topics are touched upon in kindergarten through 5th grade at a variety of levels.
Okay. Meaning kindergarten through 5th grade.
That's right.
Okay.
So in kindergarten, it's going to touch upon all 5 of these topics, but at an age appropriate level.
Excuse me, I have a question.
No, so it doesn't come along with a textbook. It comes along with topics and kind of like learning targets, ideas or concepts that are important, like that are important for the children to walk away with in order, again, to become successful learners who adopt and maintain healthy behaviors for themselves. That's the goal. But there isn't any prescribed curriculum for teachers to go about delivering that.
I think, Gada, you have a question?
Yes, I would like to know more details about what is a personal health and safety, and every point on it, on this, every details on it, so I can know what's going to my son going to learn in classroom. Because
so what you're gonna
it's like a general. I want to more details. I want to know that what will my son learn or talking. The teacher gonna talking with my kids about this and this. All the points here.
If you're asking about if you're asking about your children, I wouldn't want to address your specific question or anyone's specific instance with their children in the public meeting. What I would do is I would advise you to reach out to your principal and reach out to your child's teacher about specifics regarding the health curriculum or any other components of the curriculum?
All curriculum, I would like to know
Oh, yeah.
details for all
So
points.
the feedback.
It's general points. So we want to know for our kids what are they going to learn in nutrition and physical activity. Is what's going with them. More details in personal health and safety. More details about social, emotional, and mental health. What's more detail the subjects or that they going to talk with them about more.
The scope and sequence is lengthy.
To be more sophisticated with this. So because it's a general points.
The scope and sequence is lengthy, so the best way to get specifics on how this scope and sequence is going to be implemented at a specific grade level, in a specific classroom, at a specific school is going to be, again, to reach out to your principal, reach out to the teacher, and ask how the school has laid out the scope and sequence and how it's going to be implemented over the course of the year. That's where you can get the specific.
I would like to mention most of immigrant doesn't speak English very well, and they have like the gap between a teacher and a school administration. So sometimes they got like a paper that they doesn't know about it, and it's rare to have like someone translate it from their language. It's supposed to have someone, but not. And sometimes the paper they got it's need more clear. And see social, emotional, and mental health. We got like a paper from my kid school, but they said that they didn't give us like a self permission to let our kids, if we want them to join this class or not, and it was like a general. And they give if you if you don't like them to join, you have to send us email or something, or contact us. And sometimes kids immigrant, they are not breathing too. So
got it. This sounds like a really
difficult to them to say no. I don't want to. I don't prefer my kids to going to have a program for social, emotional, mental health.
Got it. This sounds like a really specific thing happening at your school. It sounds like. So again, I'm not going to be able to address it specifically at this meeting. The only way that we're going to be able to address this is going to be with the principal and the teacher. So I think it would be best if we followed up after the meeting to be able to arrange that. I'm happy to support the school and you or any families in connecting to translation services in order to be able to communicate with the teacher and the principal, or obtain materials that are translated into languages that families can understand so that they can understand what's happening with their children in class.
Okay, thank you.
I have a similar question.
Okay.
Is there a governing body or process to define what is standard? What's the appropriate for each age?
Yes. So the New York State and the national health standards are what the scope and sequence in New York City are drawn from. So we're following a framework that's designed by New York State and by the United States government. And we can Google those resources, and we can follow up at a time to dig into them further. This is this is a broad outline of what's in there, but they're publicly available.
I think they wanted to ask out if the parents could opt their kids out.
There are specific topics that parents do have the option to opt out of, specifically within the disease and illness prevention portion. There are some lessons that parents can opt their children out of, specifically within the HIV and AIDS education portion. I believe that's in 4th or 5th grade. The other components are not able to be opted out of.
One thing that I thought was very interesting, David, was you said the scope and services, scope and sequence is what you said. And then you talked about learning topics. And I forget the term you used, but sort of the key takeaways that kids need to know. Did you say that these are school by school determined?
No, what I said,
Sorry, I can go back.
that's okay. What I said was that schools utilize this resource, but ultimately is implemented. So the ways in which the concepts are taught and which pieces are pulled are ultimately decided upon by the teacher and the school.
And did you say, I think you mentioned Agata, it's lengthy, extensive. Is this something that every school has in writing?
It's on the DOE website. It's something that can be looked at.
Okay.
It's posted.
And then if a parent went to a school, like Gada was saying, it's not as if the school has something additional that they can provide the parent in writing. The school would just it would have to be a conversation. Is that right?
It depends. It depends on the topic that they're looking for. In general, the curriculum is something that schools have, memorialized somewhere. And I expect that principals and teachers are going to be able to have conversations with parents around the topics and concepts that their children are learning.
Okay. And the opt-out, is that set by the schools?
It's set by the DOE. That's this. It's not a school decision.
Okay.
That's a central DOE decision.
Okay. Any other questions on this slide? Okay.
Okay, and then the last point I want.
Actually,
Guys.
sorry, David,
Yes, go.
is the next slide going to be middle school?
I just did the K to 5. I didn't dig
Okay.
into 6 to 8. I just brought this up as an example.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to share, I did not have time to compile slides on the request around more information about academic support for students, specifically tutoring and small group work. So we're almost through with the entire district of compiling all the different offerings that schools are providing to students, both before, during, after school, Saturday programs. And this is for a few reasons. One, some of these programs start at the beginning of the year. Some don't get started until late fall around now. Some of these programs don't actually start until the winter. There's a variety of them, but it's long and lengthy. So by next meeting, I will devise a way to present it visually, as well as give a digestible description of all the programs and supports that we have in place to support academically students who are struggling in small groups, individually, in addition to, kind of typical whole class instruction.
Then I apologize. I want to talk about that in a second, but I just want to get back. You mentioned 6 through 8. You don't have a slide. Is it?
I don't
different
have a slide. There is a scope and sequence as well for 6th through 8th grade, and it is developed. Yes.
Okay.
So parents can't see what they're teaching.
Parents can ask teachers and their principal what their children are learning in health or anything else. So in terms of getting to the specifics question of what we're what are the units, what are the concepts, what are the activities that we're going to be engaging in this year, that's going to be a question for the teacher most directly. And then definitely, if you can't get in contact with the teacher, with the principal.
So it's not this year.
Sorry?
Which year?
Every year. Yeah. That's in general, this is for any subject, any specific topic. Your go-to is going to be your child's teacher. Your child's teacher is going to be the one who's going to be able to describe for you in detail what the children are learning, what books we're reading, what topics we're covering, when the test is, all of that stuff. You're going to want to go, your child's teacher is your go-to. After that, you're going to, if you have questions or concerns or follow-up, or you're having a hard time getting in contact with your teacher, your child's principal or the parent coordinator are going to be your next contacts to get support in getting connection. I always direct families, and I encourage you to as well, to go first to the teacher and then to the principal or the parent coordinator. No problem.
So David, on back to tutoring, what you were just talking about, are there any, understood, heard you that next meeting, expect more information on that, but is there anything maybe just qualitatively or just sort of, thematically about this year? I remember during the pandemic, everyone was talking about, oh, tutoring is the way to go. It's the way to get kids back on track. Breaking that down, not so simplistically, is that an accurate sentiment? Is it not accurate for different reasons, and sort of why? Just curious.
I think tutoring speaks to one-on-one support. I think that's kind of generally what people think about when they think about tutoring.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, the lower the ratio of teacher to student or support to learner, you're going to get a higher return because there's less attention divided between the learners. So from that perspective, one-on-one is definitely a method that supports, right? So from that perspective, yes. However, we don't have, schools aren't designed to provide everybody with one-on-one instruction all the time, for all the time. So we're designed in different ways. However, schools, and this comes back to the use of data. This is where iReady is supportive. This is where Acadience is supportive. This is where the school-based assessments we use are supportive. They help teachers, principals, myself identify individual students, groups of students who need support in a particular area. That helps principals and teachers organize their efforts around what students require that level of additional support, whether it's small group in the classroom, whether it's a small group support in the morning before school, which is something that a lot of our schools are providing, a small group or individual support after school program. That's something that practically all of our schools offer, support on Saturday, support during holiday programs, and other supports like that. And our schools across the district are providing all of those things in one-on-one and small group forums.
Do we have enough teachers to do that?
We provide it through a combination of teachers and community-based organizations. So we also leverage them. And one thing that has been a shift from the pandemic, but also before the pandemic, has been the support from some computer adaptive programs. So we also leverage those programs and find that in some cases, they can be also very supportive. Mm-hmm. That's not a cure, but it's something that is very helpful for support for children and for teachers, and helping children in specific areas of need, and also with the availability of additional translated resources, as well as resources that are on specific levels that children may need, that may be kind of a little out of the lines for a teacher on a particular grade level.
If a parent wants their child to receive tutoring, but their child doesn't necessarily, I'm assuming the district looks at it based on some of the metrics we're talking about, mm-hmm. Acadience, iReady. But let's say a student doesn't necessarily fall into the iReady band or the Acadience band that would qualify them for tutoring. Can a parent still request tutoring, additional one-on-one?
I would always direct a parent to go back to their child's teacher, mm-hmm. to find out what is it that's available for the teacher and from the school that the parent can ask for support for their child, mm-hmm. and get specifics on what their child may actually already be receiving from the school. The child may already be, participating in a small group one time a week or a couple of times a week with the teacher. The teacher may have identified something that they've planned to engage that child in a series of small group lessons that's upcoming. A lot of information can be gotten from the teacher. They do I was just at PS 69 the other day and I was here all day. Myself and the principal went into 20 classrooms, and in practically every single one of those classrooms, I saw a teacher, I saw paraprofessionals, I saw E&L teachers working with small groups of students on particular pieces. Very rarely did I see the class together in a whole, kind of in that traditional model of all the children listening to the teacher doing one thing. There was a lot of work being done in small groups, and Principal Kapitanakis and her team do a great job of using data to identify areas where children can get small group support in that area. It's a big focus of ours in the district, and it's something that all parents of all schools in the district can expect that at least at some point their child is going to be receiving support that's not just in that traditional whole class listening to the teacher forum.
I have more questions back on the middle school applications, but does anyone else have questions on
tutoring right now?
I got a question.
I'm gonna ask, are there gonna be programs for not struggling students, like other, things that will make the other kids, want to stay in school and be part of the school?
Can you say more about that?
Are we gonna have after-school programs for the students that aren't struggling? Like they just wanna have like basketball or something?
We definitely have programs like that in our schools.
It's mostly for middle school, but I don't really see the funding for the elementary students. Like their programs are always full for elementary.
After school programs and this was something that came up at the Chancellor's Town Hall. It's come up during the listening tour. I was just at the PTA meeting for PS 205 last night.
I was listening.
Yep. And that has been a, consistent refrain across the entire district around the availability and the need and the desire for more after school programming, particularly for elementary school students and elementary families.
Elementary has less, and to get into a program, it's like full as soon as you try to apply.
The demand is significantly higher in elementary school than it is in middle school. It's not necessarily that there is more in middle school, it's that the demand is higher in elementary school.
Will there be more funding available for those after school programs?
I'll tell you the same answer I said last night at the PTA meeting. That's something that is something that the Department of Education and the Chancellor are very well aware of. The Department of Youth and Community Development, that's the primary city agency that funds after school programs like the Compass and the Beacon programs. They're very well aware. Our elected officials are aware. Providing additional childcare and after school programs for young children is a huge need. And so I do communicate and seek out every opportunity available to increase those opportunities.
So what can parents do to push the politicians or get more funding for the elementary school?
I think that to communicate the need as much as possible. I think that, parents can communicate to their local leaders and you're doing the right thing by communicating it to me. And I communicate that to Central DOE as well as to folks in the community. And I'm also always seeking out opportunities. So whenever opportunities do arise, I always focus those efforts and direct them to our schools wherever possible.
Yeah, I got one question from the tutoring or after school program.
Mhm.
So is there any safety issue about the after school program or tutoring? So is the school responsible or if partner with a community organization?
Mhm.
So who's not responsible for the safety issue?
It depends. Immediately, the person who's responsible for the safety issue is the organization that's running the program. So if the community-based organization is running the program, the community-based organization is going to be immediately responsible. However, beyond that, it depends on the situation.
Yeah, because we see right now it's in the winter time. So every after school ending 5:30. So it's not in the nighttime already. So we see the school building is blind, but at the corner of the school building is not. Sometimes it doesn't have you can hear. So we see now in the winter time after school program and it's 5:30. So school building, we got a lot of light, it's blind, but in the corner on the low side, I say it's very dark even for the 4th grade or 5th grade, the student, they will walk home alone. So, but in the corner, like school building is dark.
Got it. So are you saying that what happens once children leave the program, leave the school building and are walking home?
Yeah.
Got it. Once the children are dismissed and they leave the school perimeter in the school area, they've been dismissed. So that's when we had a lot of conversations during the fall, and most recently the mayor held a town hall around public safety, and this was a topic that came up a lot around safety of children, family members walking young children home, between the school and the home. So this is something that we've communicated with our partners in the NYPD, with the local precincts. It's similar to after school programs. Safety outside of the school was the #1 topic that came up in the listening tour as well, and it is a big conversation. What we did make sure to happen in the district was to make sure that all of our principals are connected with the local precinct, make sure that parents are aware to call 911 if a crime or an emergency happens, and then to dial 311 for non-crimes that are nonetheless concerns around public safety, so that the New York City Police Department can be aware of them. But if there is an emergency or a crime, that to immediately call 911. But we've also made sure to partner with the heads of the precincts so that the officers that are responsible for monitoring the neighborhood and the community in the afternoon and the evening, these are the neighborhood community officers, the NCOs, are directly connected with the principals, so that when a parent communicates with the principal around a concern or an issue that's in the community, the principal is another method for being able to communicate it. It's not going to be the fastest one, but it's definitely one way that parents can know that they can get their concerns ultimately to the NYPD. But the quickest way is to call 911 or 311.
Here's a question. Recognizing that this is recognizing that this is not a call 911 situation, and sort of down the list of severity, but it is an issue. And I think Kevin was mentioning, he'd heard about this from some parents. What about marijuana around schools? If kids, families are picking up their kids, there's someone smoking marijuana, it's obviously a low level offense, and we know it gets treated as such, but number one, you can't do it on school property, right? And number two, what do you do? Is it a 311 call? Is it talk to the NCO? Where does that kind of thing fit?
I think in a case where something that is not that the parent or community member doesn't deem as an immediate threat or a direct crime, because again, if it's a crime, to call 911, you have, like, when you're in this vicinity of the school, every school has a school safety agent. You can notify the school safety agent. You can notify the principal to inform the school safety agent, and school safety agents are a direct line of communication to the NYPD. That's one thing that all parents can do when they're on school grounds or in the vicinity of the school.
Is there any, does the SSA have any authority in a case like that? I guess what you just chase the person. If there was someone smoking on the grounds, they could tell them to leave, or they would call the NYPD. So so SSAs monitor the perimeter of the school as well as the school building itself. Mm-hmm. So they would be, immediately responsible for observing and making the decision of addressing it directly or to communicate it to the NYPD or both. Okay. Middle school. Let me unmute. So just a couple of follow-ups on the middle school application process. That was really helpful. Thank you. Will the program descriptions be posted online so parents can review them? I thought that was really helpful to sort of outline each program as you did. Could you put that on the website?
So I've asked each school to post a general description. So they will post a general description on their websites shortly, as well as we'll post a general description. We've also posted a link to the middle school application process and my schools and all of that on our website. So when you go onto the d20brooklyn.com, you'll see a link for middle school admissions, and we'll be able to link to it. I did check on my schools, and I did not see a program description on my schools that I provided. So that's why I provided here. And I'll ask the schools to post something similar on their websites as well.
Great, that would be very helpful.
I've also asked all schools to post a variety of information about, one, the specialized and support programs that they offer for enrichment, art, dance, technology, after school programs and such, so that parents can have more information about what their schools offer. And I've also asked for all middle schools to post dates and information around any virtual or in-person tours that they're offering for the school, so parents can have more information about how to make connections and learn more about the schools that they're interested in applying to.
Are the schools, McKinley, Brennan, McAuliffe, are they offering virtual online tours? Because we only have 2 more weeks or so in the application process.
I believe that McKinley and Brennan are both offering in-person tours. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that they're both offering in-person tours. Yeah, and I know that Krista McAuliffe has a posted virtual tour that parents can access.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Kevin. So for the application process then, as we've discussed offline, there, a couple parents, including Councilmember Marie, has applying to middle school, and she saw a lottery number under her child's name. What does that mean for middle school applications this year, the lottery number?
Great question. So the application process is a combination of where a child ranks a program and what their composite score from 4th grade grades is. So depending on where those 2 things land, the child will be end up in a rank of students who are applying for a certain number of seats. The lottery number in this case, can be considered what we call like a tiebreaker. In the case where 2 students with the exact same composite score are getting to the 300th seat in a 300-seat program, the lottery number would be considered the tiebreaker for those 2 students.
And how are the grades being calculated this year? On a 0 to 100 numeric scale or on a 1, 2, 3, 4 grouping?
This year, the District 20 grading policy is on a numerical scale. So 65 to 100 is considered a pass for the core course grades. So for ELA, social studies, science, and math. And then a 55 to a 64 is considered a fail.
Right. So for application purposes, let me just try and clarify. I know you changed that policy recently. We were updated on it. That's in effect for school year 2023. But the grades that were submitted for a 5th grader from last year, from their 4th grade, weren't those using a mix of, weren't some schools using a 1, 2, 3, 4 category, and some schools were using a 65 to 100 numeric scale?
To my knowledge, the District 20 grading policy that was in effect prior to this updated grading policy still had a numerical grade for those core course grades. The big change in the district this year was that now moving forward, 2nd graders will be included in the numerical grading policy where 2nd graders weren't included previously. And this was to address the 3rd grade entry point for the Gifted and Talented program at 127 and using the 2nd grade grades as the measure. So this year we're including the 2nd graders, but before we had District 20 grading policy did have numerical grades for the 4 course grades.
So is there any way for parents to know, I guess just to further clarify this, because this is a point of confusion for a lot of parents, is kids are going to be applying to middle school. They'll either have a 95.5 or a 94.3 or a 97.8, right? And that's the idea. And what you're saying is the lottery number comes in if 2 kids have a 97.8, and that is what you need for the last seat at a program.
More or less, yeah.
Okay. Do you know how far down the decimals it goes? To the 10th, to the 100th, to the 1000th?
No, I don't. It's calculated centrally, so it will be a part of the enrollment process.
Sure.
My office won't be calculating it.
I understand, but we like to know this. And then, is there any way for parents to get their child's GPA? Can we get that exact number? If you're a 5th grader applying, can you know?
The GPA, to my knowledge, is calculated on the report card. So when a parent gets a report card, they'll see an overall average at the bottom. And
there's no reason to think that would be different from the GPA being used by enrollment that's fed into the system.
It's named as a composite score comprised of 4th grade core course grades.
And is there any way for parents to see where they rank on a school's, like a list? So for the program at McAuliffe, a parent can see I'm the, you know, I'm 120th out of 100. Okay. Actually, sorry, Kevin, one quick question. Can you guys, we weren't doing this before, but can you unmute your machine when you ask your question? And we should all be doing this. Switch from that. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
So parents might ask this before. The issue is students receive a 95 GPA in an honor program and a student receive a 95 GPA in a Zoom program. Their level of study might be quite significantly different. So, but when they do the enrollment for the middle school this year, they are both treated as a 95 same way.
The
Is
grading
there adjustment we need to do for that?
No, the grading policy is district-wide, so it's for all children. And the report card, like when a child applies, it's for all District 20 students. It's not for only District 20 students who are enrolled in an honors program in a particular school. The enrollment process is for, you know, all District 20 students.
So I guess. Kids that make that are coming from an honors program.
The composite score is going to be drawn from the report card grades.
Yeah, the report card.
It's not, no matter if they're in an honors program or
All right, so
otherwise.
it'll be equal. That's what you're saying. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion is that there needs to be some remedy for that. Maybe next year, that's a thing. You know, that's definitely, along with potentially using test scores. This is just me talking now, but that's definitely an improvement that should be made next year to balance out some of the factors you're talking about.
No, I was just asking because I'm curious to know.
Yeah, same thing.
And I've heard it. I've heard this concern before. It's definitely feedback that I'm also going to be providing to DOE. So it's something, you know, when I hear these things, I communicate them up.
Just wanted to confirm that lottery, that the number, you know, this is the same system, the 16-digit hexadecimal number. It's the same exact system that's used for high school admissions, correct? To the best of your knowledge, David.
You mean like how the number is generated?
Yeah, and sort of the where it ranks you in terms of your percentile ranking.
In terms of the development of the number, I believe it's the same process.
Okay.
I could ask, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But as far as the function of the number, it's a little different in middle school admissions based off of grades versus the high school, which is a little different. The criteria for children screening into the program is a little different.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I understand that, but I guess one thing
But the idea, I guess the general idea is the same. It operates as a tiebreaker for children when they're tying for a final seat.
Yeah. And the thing that's interesting is in the case of high schools, there's sort of a larger grouping. And, but in this case, it's depending on how many decimals they go to on the grade point average, it might be a little sort of a very low chance of, let's say you're going to the hundredths decimal place, a very low chance you would need a lottery number. I will say to any parent who's interested, we have on our website under resources and school admissions, there's a calculator on the CEC website where you can plug in the lottery number you receive, enter the first 2 characters, and it will give you, it will basically tell you how good your number is or not. Just an FYI, you can go to our website under resources, school admission. If it works the same, then yes.
I think another key difference between the middle school process and the high school process when it comes to lottery is that for the middle school process, especially in District 20, every single child in the district is guaranteed a seat in a District 20 school based off of the zone. Every child in the district is zoned for a middle school program, and that includes children zoned to McKinley or a zone to Madeline Brennan. The only school in the district that does not have a zone is Christa McAuliffe or Brooklyn School of Inquiry. But every other school has children. I'm sorry, say that? And I'm sorry, thank you. And 936. 936 is an audition program. Thank you for reminding me, which is also screened, but not academically screened. It's screened via arts audition. But that doesn't change the fact that every child in the district is zoned for a school. So if they apply to a particular screen program and don't get admitted to that program, they're still guaranteed admission to their zone program. However, children who are zoned for that program need to list that zone program on their application in order to make sure that they're offered a seat during the application process.
Okay. I think
Okay, I got a question
Yeah.
because from the DOE, we do provide a workshop for the middle school admission. Is there any recorder or video report put on the website for the sons for some of the parents didn't make it on the time on the workshop?
That's a good question. I believe there are bills.
You're muted.
I believe that they are recorded and posted, but I'll follow up with Bill and Sylvia just to check where those are, because I believe that they are recorded and posted for families who weren't able to make it to the sessions.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Back to the after school programs. The parent yesterday was asking, and I think you didn't really understand her question, because she was saying how she couldn't get her kid into the after school program. So we want to know how kids are being chosen for the after school programs. Is there a transparency to that? Are they getting picked by lottery, first come, first serve, or how are they getting picked for the after school program?
So that's a question best asked to the principal or the head of the program. So typically for a program that's offered by a community-based organization, they're going to have their own process for application to the program and selecting students. So I wouldn't be the best one to answer it, but I can definitely help make connection with the right folks for any specific parent reaching out about a specific school.
I think the parent yesterday was feeling unfair of like how she felt like she didn't have an option to apply, and it seemed like they already have the kids that they wanted in the program.
We should, we can definitely follow up with the school and the program to get more information about how the process actually works.
The same PS102, I would love to know how is going on. How is it?
Scott, I have a question. Can you guys hear when people online are speaking? Okay.
I just said I wanted to follow up with the PS102 to know how is the program of after school going on with lottery, or how is going?
Again, it's a question best asked.
Well, we can't hear David now.
Okay, here we go. It's a question best asked to the principal or the head of the program at that particular school. If it's at PS205 or PS102 or whatever school, I wouldn't be able to answer it right here.
Okay. Any other questions? Any other questions for Superintendent Preto from council members? Okay, good. Thank you, David, as always. I'll now just make a few comments about a few different issues. Give me 1 second. Okay, first announcement is just for any parents on the line on the meeting. We're going to start publicizing the CEC elections, which will be taking place next spring.
we have the dates. They will be starting January 9th. I'm just going to post these in the chat, actually. January 9th, parents can submit their applications. There will be candidate forums and other sort of events to publicize the candidates from February 27th to April 20th. And then the voting will occur from April 21st to May 9th. There's, as anyone at these meetings knows, sort of CECs are kind of the primary publicly elected parent body representing parents at the district level. And what I personally also really like to emphasize is it sort of takes it up to the citywide level as well. And there's a real chance to, if you've enjoyed being involved at the school level on maybe an SLT or a PTA, and you'd like to sort of see how policy and other school-related issues are sort of handled and take shape and are carried out, and sort of the process at the citywide level and the district level, this is a great thing to get involved in. I'm just going to go back to my notes. One requirement is make sure, I think we have a very high compliance rate on NICSA accounts in District 20, but you'll need a NICSA account, New York City Schools account. Make sure you've signed up for one of those. You can talk to your parent coordinator. If you need help setting one up, you'll need that to vote. And I'm just going to post the link. I have a link here for any parents who still need to sign up for a NICSA account. You can use that link I've just posted in the chat. Can you say that again, Kevin?
The CEC candidate.
The deadline.
Yeah, where is that?
Or what is it?
When?
Oh, application period, January 9th to February 13th. Yep. And that's all available. I don't have the website right now, but that's an easy search online. You can, if anyone has that link quickly, it'll be up. I'm not sure it's even up there right now. They're still finalizing some things about the election. Okay, just a couple of CEC events or different things that we've been involved with. Of course, we had the town hall with Chancellor Banks November 1st, a couple weeks ago at PS 160. Very good event. Had about 120, 130 individuals there, including school staff. A lot of members of the Chancellor's senior team were there. Talked about a number of different issues. One thing that I'm going to segue into is Chancellor mentioned in response to a question from a parent. Sorry, can you just mute yourself? Thank you. Chancellor mentioned in response to a question from a parent that he would be willing to support us on the need for a new high school in District 20. We all know it's a very time-consuming, lengthy process. Even if it starts today, it probably won't even be finished by the time all of our kids have moved out of the schools in District 20. But that's, again, I know people have, sort of worked on this over the years a lot, and I'm willing to, put in a little bit of time and sort of try and take the Chancellor up on his offer, quite frankly, and see where we can go. Maybe we can just sort of get a refreshed idea of what's available in District 20 for high schools, and Chancellor specifically mentioned to get in touch with them. And so what we did last week was went to the Citywide Council on High Schools meeting, spoke with them about the need, got their agreement. I've sent them an email that we're going to draft jointly, put that together and send it to Chancellor Banks. And then also in tandem with this, we had a meeting with President's Council last week and sort of spoke to them about this. And we'd like to get them as well, sort of as a co-signer on this email, and obviously work together with them on this, because we think this is a need that, the statistic I always point out is, even though we've been declining in enrollment across the city, District 20 is still one of the only 2 districts in Brooklyn that's over capacity at the high school level. And we're officially K through 8, but this affects all of us, and we're sort of the community local group. And so together with us and the Citywide Council on High Schools and hopefully President's Council, we can make a strong case to get something going. I'm thinking about trying to use Chancellor's offer and sort of work hand in hand with all the different agencies that are involved with this, like the School Construction Authority, the Office of Space Planning, and then the $1 million question, is there a site available? And just trying to do some work on that. And so that's an update. In addition to talking about that with the President's Council, we talked about a number of other issues. It was a great meeting. There were two other areas that we've also touched on tonight that we agreed that we should really try and collaborate on, which is the issue, Summer Rising, of course, very popular program, would like to get that back in some expanded form. And then we talked a lot about the 3K and pre-K situation. And that was another, this is sort of another high level issue at the city level that there was a press conference by Chancellor sort of a week ago, and but there's still a lot of questions that parents have about the future of 3K and pre-K. And so that's a potential area of collaboration with President's Council going forward. I want to talk about fair student funding. The fair student funding formula, for anyone who's not aware, is sort of the predominant basis for calculating funding to schools. And back in April, the Panel for Educational Policy voted down the proposed funding formula. There was a need to revisit the formula expressed by the PEP. In May, they eventually approved the existing formula, but with a condition that the DOE would set up a task force to work on revisions. That task force did some work over the summer, starting I think in late June, and released their recommendations at the end of October, actually early November. The next step in the process is that they're in the hands of the Chancellor now. The Chancellor has to review them. There's going to be a feedback process with CECs starting in January. And then in next April, the recommendations are supposed to be taken up by the PEP and voted on by the PEP. April or May, it's one of those months, because it has to take effect for the budget for the following school year. So I've looked at the recommendations, and this is something I'm, there are 5 key recommendations, and I just want to share an analysis that I've looked at as far as how it would affect District 20. And I'm going to try and share my screen if I can get the right window open. Okay. So what everyone is looking at is just simply all this data, by the way, comes from the materials posted on the Fair Student Funding Working Group's website. And so this is accurate as of the date it was posted to their website by the working group. I don't have additional updated information on this, but it's a fairly straightforward calculation. What the working group did was they took for every recommendation, they had a number, 8 or 9, that they considered, and they made 5 final recommendations. And what they did for each district was calculate the amount it would impact each district on a per student basis. So for example, they're saying, I've got District 20 highlighted across here in blue. I've sorted this by the net impact per district on the right-hand side, and then I'm highlighting District 20 in blue. So for example, they had changes to what's called the base foundation funding. And what this is telling us is that on average, based on this proposed change, District 20 will lose $214 per student. By comparison, adding a new poverty weight, you can see they project District 20 will gain $131 per student. When you add up these 4 recommendations, not 5, I'll touch on the 5th one in a second. When you add up these 4 recommendations that are changes to the existing weights, basically, 3 of these add new weights and 1 of them modifies what's called base foundation funding. When you add these all up, the net effect for District 20 is a loss of $131 per student. And just so we know what we're talking about, I don't the numbers are, I'm not going to quote a number accurately right now, but when we're talking about the fair student funding, it's something like a base foundation is about $4,000 per student, or in that ballpark. That's not accurate, but that's sort of the type that we're talking about. And then it can be increased or decreased depending on the needs of the student. That's the whole point of the formula. So keep that in mind as we think about the magnitude of this number. And you can just see here, I've just, every district in the city sort of sorted by the impact, from worst hit, most negatively impacted District 2 down to highest benefit for District 9, which will gain $839 per student. So anyway, that's what I'm sort of interested in, is how would these proposed changes impact District 20? And then the fifth recommendation is to remove what's called academic portfolio funding. It's to remove what's called portfolio funding for academic portfolio high schools. And again, we are K through 8 here. This is for a high school recommendation, but the academic portfolio high schools, there are 13 high schools that receive additional funding, including all 8 specialized high schools. So Brooklyn Tech, Staten Island Tech, for example. And one of the recommendations is to cut this funding. I'm opposed to that. And there's a written response I've prepared that I'm just going to share the screenshot of it, because I do want to talk about it officially as a council here. Some of you already know about it. We've signed it, we've sent it to the chancellor, but for a document, I'm just following sort of procedure here to get a document that's signed by more than 5 of the CEC. I believe it's best practice to sort of share it with the whole council before additional members sign on. What's that? Thank you, Kevin. You are on the ball. So this is our written response on the fair student funding proposals. So I'm really sort of sharing this. Share this for the community as well. If anyone is interested in seeing it, I can actually post it in the chat. I'm just thinking about the link here. I'll post a link in a second when I'm done screen sharing, but this was our written response on the proposals, essentially, criticizing them on a variety of measures, including sort of the process and the procedure that was taken. We thought it was a little bit too, it lacks a little bit of sort of analytical rigor. There's some additional work that probably should be done if we're really going to say the fair student funding formula is effective or not. That's one of the key things here, is that you can't just sort of, adjust something without having data-driven evidence to prove why you're making the changes you are. And that's really what drives these recommendations. This response is saying, this should have been done in a more rigorous way using econometric analysis, cost-benefit analysis. This formula has been in place since 2007, so there's years of data. We should really take a look at how is the formula, is the formula able to have a strong predictive effect on learning outcomes based on dollars spent? And there's lots of ways you can do that, but it's very, the recommendation here in bold is, let's do this the right way. Let's reconstitute a new budget task force with experts in econometric analysis, financial analysis, and policy analysis. So I'm going to stop that share.
Oh, Steve.
Go ahead,
let me
Elizabeth.
ask,
Yes.
When you do number 5, remove academic portfolio funding for those high schools, how much are they going to lose per student?
Yeah, good question, Elizabeth. Very good question. It's $1,040 per student.
Oh, they're going to lose $1,000.
It's a lot.
Then.
Yep, it's a lot. On average, it's about 11% of the budget for those schools. So you think about just being forced to cut 11% of the funding for your school. This year, the cuts proposed by the citywide by the mayor and sort of the DOE was something like, depending on what numbers you used, 0.7% of, 0.2, 0.7% of the school's funding. If you think about how much that impacted schools, think about what 11% of your budget would do. And the other thing about the schools that are being targeted here, because they are being targeted, these were the only schools where they recommended cutting funding, was the academic portfolio schools. These schools already receive less per capita funding. True, they don't have a number of the they don't have as high of students with disabilities, but they're already some of the lowest funded in the city on a per capita basis. And so this would further reduce that level, which I oppose. So anyway, if any council members, we've officially introduced this document. If any council members, I think just to sort of dot all the I's and cross all the T's, we'll just call a vote here just to basically approve more than 5 of us signing on to this response. So I just want to make a motion to call a vote on a sort of approving the addition of more council members to this document. Is there a second? Second. I'll do a roll call vote since it should be pretty simple. If you're in favor of adding more than 5 of us to this document, just say yes. If not, say no. Steve, yes. Jen?
Okay, sure.
Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Vito is excused. Marie is excused. Li Ping? Joyce? Gada?
Yes.
Maya? Here. Yona?
Yes.
And Kevin. Great, thank you, everyone. So that concludes my comments on the fair student funding. Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. Yona, are you ready to present your information?
Yes, sure.
Do you need Kevin to share a screen?
Do I have that access as well or no? Sure. Kevin can share the summary document for me, please. Perfect. At the first page, Kevin, so I can go. Great. Thank you so much.
Hold on 1 second, Yona. We just want to make sure we have the technical setup correct. Sorry, sit. Just, you can speak up, Sylvia. What do you need us to do? Sure. Yeah. Where is my speaker? Is it right here?
Sure.
Yona, we're just getting a mic in place so everyone can hear you loud and clear here.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone.
On top of the I think it's like up here.
Jonas, can you speak again?
Hello?
The mic is definitely on, but I'm not sure where on my laptop I need to position it. Okay, go ahead, Yona.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to present some of the IEP compliance data that we have received. I would start this presentation by going over some definition of the main terms, so we all are understanding what the different acronyms mean. So IEP is an individualized education program that documents a child's eligibility for special education services and formalizes the school system's plan to provide special education programs and services that are appropriate for the child's unique needs. It contains specific information about a child and the education program designed to meet this need, which include a child's current performance in school and goals that can be reasonably accomplished in a school year. Special education and related services, including counseling, speech, occupational or physical therapy, paraprofessional support, assistive technology, behavior intervention and modification. It also includes participation with non-disabled children and or mainstreaming opportunities. Date services will begin, how often they will be provided, and where they will be provided and for how long. The IEP are also means of measuring a child's progress. There are different settings for students, such as integrated co-teaching services.
which is a provision of specially designed instruction and academic instruction provided to a group of students with disabilities and non-disabled students. This is also referred to as an ICT classroom. The next setting is an SETSS, Special Education Teacher Support Services, which provides specially designed and/or supplemental instruction to support the participation of the student with a disability in the general education classroom. We also have special class, where all of the children in the class have IEPs with needs that cannot be met in a general education classroom. They are taught by special education teachers who provide specialized instruction. Before I move on to the second page, I would like to share with you that we did get some numbers that compare the city and the District 20 services that I just mentioned. So for integrated co-teaching services, the city met of these services is 89%, whereas in our district is 91%. The SETSS service is at 87%, whereas in our district are at 94%. And the special class services, our numbers are the same as citywide, at 87%. The second page that's being shown in the shared screen goes over the program delivery for all New York City schools. And this is data demonstrating the number and percentage of students receiving recommended special education program services for all New York City schools. As you can see, there is quite a large number of students that receive services, where 88% of them, which is about 148,625, are fully receiving special services. 11% of all students, which is a little over 18,000 students, are partially receiving special services. And 1% of students, which is a considerate amount of people, is 1,759, are not receiving any special services. We, in our district, a total of 6,436 students, which is about 90%, are fully receiving special education programs in the District 20. Our document carries on to provide the different breakdowns based on the integrated co-teaching services, the ICTS, where in our district, 91% are fully receiving the services. More than 5 students are partially receiving, whereas 5 of them are not receiving the ICTS service. The special education teacher support service, again, we have less than 5 students that are not receiving the service, whereas 94% are fully receiving it. In special classes, the numbers of fully receiving is 87%, which is about 1,981 students. 281, which compiles 12%, are partially receiving it, and we have about 21 students, which percentage-wise is still less than 5%, are not receiving the special class accommodation. On page 3 of this document, we prepared a summary where we go over the various schools in our district and how the program delivery data is distributed. As you can see from the highlights, the schools in green are schools that have a smaller number of students where the services are partially met or they're not received. However, we do have a handful of schools in our district that are having quote unquote students that are not receiving special classes. So for example, we have schools such as starting off with PS 185, where 13 students, which composes 65%, are fully receiving special classes, whereas 7 students are still not receiving special classes. We have the PS 748, where we have no students that are receiving special classes, and there are 5 or less students that need it, but who are not receiving it. Some other information that was provided to us is dealing with the related services programs delivery for all New York City schools. What related services programs are services that can help a student participate in a school and achieve his or her educational goals. This related service providers can work with teachers, paraprofessionals, and other adults to support students. The programs that are included to support the students are counseling services, bilingual, hearing education services, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech language therapy bilingual, and vision education services. The next statistics is for all New York City schools. So we have 280,822, which composes 95% of students have encountered a related service program, and 13,794 students did not encounter a related service program. We go on to break down the information specific to our District 20 schools, where, as you can see, all the program types that I mentioned previously are listed, and we have the data as far as the full encounter, the partial encounter, and the no encounter. One of the highest services that are provided and compose the highest number of students would be speech language therapy at 99% of encounter, and hearing education services at also 99% of encounter. We have physical therapy, vision educational services, counseling services, and with the lower full encounter would be the counseling services bilingual. And the last page goes on to continue with some of the schools where we have received some data. And in this particular information, it is broken down by service instead of the setting of the services. So for related services program delivery, the notable school data for District 20 comes from PS 200, when we have speech language therapy of 146 students, which have fully encountered speech language therapy. We have PS 204, when we have 169 students. PS 205, 171 students with speech language therapy. PS 102 is listed for the counseling services provided, which is for 101 students. And then there is a mention for PSIS 30, where there is a breakdown regarding the counseling services, where 11 students did not encounter it. Occupational therapy, when we have 7 students did not encounter it. and vision education services, 5 or less students did not encounter it. And again, with PS 102, where we had 101 students that encountered counseling services, based on this particular data information, 14 students did not encounter it. The data that we have received is indeed very hefty, and it does include a lot of different breakdowns for more detailed information. What the PDF is composed of is of the main points as it relates to our district. Another comparison that is not part of the PDF is the percent full encounter between the city data and the District 20 data. So the way that we compare is that for counseling services, the number for the city data is at 94%, whereas for our district is at 97%. Counseling services bilingual are at 79% for the city and 76% for the district. The hearing education services are at 96% for the city, whereas 99 for District 20. Also, we have higher values for the occupational therapy. We are at 98% instead of 93%. For physical therapy, we are at 98% instead of 95%. And for speech language therapy, we are at 99% compared to 97%. Speech language therapy bilingual, we are at we're at 89% versus 87%. And for vision education services, we're at 94% compared to the 90% value for the city. The only service that we are below the numbers for the citywide data is for counseling services bilingual, where we stand at 76% compared to the 79% of the citywide numbers. This concludes the data summary that we were provided regarding the IEPs. So thank you so much to the DOE and to Dr. Preda for providing this information. One of the things that I have personally tried to bring up, not to just the CEC meetings, but in general to the PTA meetings or to other community engagement opportunities, is that IEPs and students that are in need of special services composes a very important part of our community. I have been in communication quite a lot of times with parents that struggle with understanding the IEP process, with how to get the process started, when is the good time, and what is the timeline of such processes. In the past few months, I've been able to forward to Sylvia and Bill Chen, our staff at the DOE level, even direct contacts from parents, because this is truly an important issue for us. I would like, given that I was not the person that has gathered the data personally, I would like to ask Dr. Preda, was this data received by all schools? And are all schools in our district, do they all offer special class settings? I know in some years, certain elementary school did not offer a specialized classroom, like the 12-to-1 setting.
Maybe. So thanks for the question, Yona, and thanks for the presentation. The first question is whether schools have access to this data that you're sharing, and the answer is yes. Schools do have access to all of their what we call compliance related data to see what percentages that the school is able to serve students based off of their IEP mandates. And we at the district level have access to the data as well. And I have staff who monitor that data and support schools in making sure that they're able to address areas where there are ways in which to improve the numbers. There are some instances that are out of the school's control, and you'll notice that in that data, the two areas where we have the lowest percentages of compliance and a focus of ours at the district is around providing bilingual services, and that's both for pedagogical within special education. So where in instances where there's a requirement for a child to receive their special education academic services by a licensed duly certified bilingual special education certified teacher, as well as related services like counseling or speech therapy needing to be provided by a duly certified speech or counselor that is also bilingual certified in the language in which the child requires the service. One of the beauties of District 20 is that we are incredibly language diverse, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's really amazing. But it also it provides us with a challenge to ensure that in cases where children are required to receive services mandated in specific languages by a licensed teacher in that licensed bilingual in that language, it's a challenge. It's a focus area of mine and principals, and we work with the DOE, teacher recruitment and quality, the local universities, and community organizations. And I'm expanding my efforts as one of my focus areas this year in order to create stronger pipelines for recruiting, attracting, and maintaining bilingual certified teachers in languages where we require them.
My second question, David,
Was there a second question?
Yeah, sorry. Okay, I can repeat it. My second question was whether
She is talking.
How do we?
I think you turned your sound off.
can you hear me?
Now we can, Yana. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi. So my second question was, given that the special classroom is the most specialized setting offered within a typical regular elementary school, do all our elementary schools in our district, do they all offer a 12-to-1 setting? Or are there still schools that do not offer this kind of opportunity for the parents?
The recommended program service that's most common in the district is integrated co-teaching services. We'll have the largest number, highest percentage of students who receive ICT. Nonetheless, there are a large number of students who are recommended for self-contained special class or 12-to-1 programs. Schools are required by law to honor all of the mandates on the IEP, starting with the program recommendation, the number of periods per week in each subject area, the related services, counseling. So where you see that a percentage is not being met, it's due to the IEP mandates as written not being connected to the service. So where you see 89% instead of 100% on whichever one it was, bilingual speech therapy, it means that there's 11% of students who have bilingual speech therapy listed on their IEP, but any combination of the program into the programming system, which is one of the data places that the compliance is pulled from, the license area of the teacher assigned to that student, or a variety of other factors would be the thing that will result in that number not being 100% or an individual child or group of children not coming up. But it comes down to what is on the IEP. So schools are required to provide service that's listed on the IEP, and that includes 12-to-1 classes.
Okay, and if I'm understanding this correctly, when the school year begins, depending on the request, let's say in kindergarten, is that how do schools accommodate the incoming students with IEPs? Is there flexibility, I guess, then, in order to accommodate this? If that makes any sense.
So in a case where a school does not currently have a licensed teacher or an opened class, or I think a great example, because it's something that does happen in the district, is around a student who is mandated for bilingual special education service in a specific language. This is a case where, in the absence of a licensed special education bilingual certified teacher in that specific language, we would provide a paraprofessional, for example, who's fluent in that particular language, to provide what we call alternate placement service, to ensure that the child is still able to be connected to class and engaged in the learning. The child would show up as not being fully served in their IEP, but the school is doing the best available thing in the moment to be able to provide service to the child and ensure that this child is still has every possible opportunity to be engaged and given access to the learning in the classroom. It's just an example. It's just an example of how a school might go about supporting a child where they don't have immediately the licensed pedagogue or that particular service available at that moment. But schools, and this is part of our work, constantly analyzing the mandates that are listed on the IEPs of the students that are on the register, and working to provide those services as listed on the IEP. So it's a priority of mine. It's a priority of our principals. We're constantly looking at our compliance rates in the district around program service delivery and working to close that gap. The goal is always 100%. And right now we're at 90%. Last year we ended the year at about 90%, and the goal is to get it to 100. There's no other way to say it. We're trying to get it to 100.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Paulette from the chat, she has a question regarding where are we on IEP evaluation, reevaluation, and triannual. This ties into another question that I have regarding IEPs. I have noticed that sometimes, if not a lot of the time, the IEPs are done at the beginning of the year. So a child will have an IEP evaluation, let's say in September, October, but that possibly cannot give a new teacher enough time to evaluate, or the other school members to evaluate the student properly, because they've only seen him or her for a month. But then there is no other follow-up until the next year when you have still a new teacher. So what steps or what is the guidance, I guess, that the district puts out there for the update of the REP, or and I'm not speaking in terms of a parent who is very actively involved in their children's education, but what about parents that do have a child with IEP, but they're not in constant communication with their teachers, and they just get these big packages that I'm not sure if they're translated in other languages or not. But the point is that if you have an IEP at the beginning of the year with one teacher, let's say you're going to go to the next grade, you're still going to have an IEP at the beginning of that next grade level. So it doesn't give enough time, like in October, let's say, it's not enough time for the teacher, the current teacher, to properly evaluate and properly update that IEP. So I'm curious as to how, the directives are, or, if my question makes sense. You are muted, Dr. Prado.
I'm muted. If I understand the question correctly, Yona, the general gist of the question is how are IEPs reviewed? How is the date set upon? And then what are the requirements for teachers and schools to go through the review process? So the date of the annual review, so every IEP is reviewed annually by the teacher and the parent. That date is set based off of the the start of the IEP, and that the start date of an IEP varies across students. Some students' IEPs are reviewed at the beginning of the year because that's when that IEP was initiated, when it was first created. Some IEPs it really can happen at any time in the year. It can happen at the beginning of the year, middle of the year, end of the year. It really depends on when that child's IEP was initiated. The IEPs are reviewed annually between the special education teacher, the district representative, and the parent, and triennially are reviewed by the entire SBST, including a school psychologist, a social worker, and a variety of folks along with the parents. I would say that, and I see Paulette's question about where are we on evaluations. I don't have that data with me, Paulette, but what I can say is that, Yona, to your question about what should parents do who are not in contact with their teacher around the IEP and are just receiving stuff in the mail or not translated services, should reach out to their teacher or to the principal in the absence of being able to contact their teacher to get that. Parents of children with disabilities or otherwise have the right to be able to be connected with their child's teacher and have access to the information that's directly connected to their children. And that goes for definitely for an IEP. IEPs can be translated. This information can be provided to parents in all of the languages translated by the DOE. And for languages that they're not translated by the DOE, this is something that parents should be connecting with their teachers and their principals with, so that we can provide support in getting these documents translated. This is really important for parents, and it's something that they're entitled to. And obviously, where parents are not able to get contact with their teacher or their principal, our principals this is something that's a high priority for all of our principals. So I would be surprised to hear that a parent's not able to contact their teacher or their principal. But in any case where that is not happening, Bill Chin and Sylvia Jasinski from my office are an immediate contact in my office to be able for all parents to get support in getting contact for IEP related issues or otherwise.
So it is an accurate advice that if I run into a parent, let's say of Spanish language, and they receive an IEP in English, it is their right, and there is a possibility for them to get the IEP translated to Spanish.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. They should. I think the first thing to do is just to request it. I think the right thing to do is just, if they receive it in English, to request it, and if they have any issues after the request, to reach out to the principal. The documents and that material can be absolutely translated, and definitely translated into the 9 languages that the DOE provides translation for documents. But if there's any questions around translation, please reach out to your principal, and also can reach out to Bill and Sylvia in my office. We have a lot of information in connection to translation services.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you, Paulette, for the email address.
David, just curious, back to the, it's a handful of schools. I don't know if, is this something off the top of your head? You saw those schools that had sort of the, that we highlighted in red. Is there anything off the top of your head that oh, there's something going on here, we're working on it?
I see it.
It looks like it's just that category, special classes.
I can't say off the top of my head.
Okay.
There's a variety. I hate to give this answer, but there's a range of possibilities that could have it show up as not serving. It could be. There's a variety of things it could be.
Okay.
But off the top of my head, I couldn't answer why these particular schools are showing up with this.
Okay. And I have a question. Related services. forgive me if I've got this wrong, but this was started sort of during the pandemic, correct? During the pandemic, or no, it's always been related services.
Related services just refer to those services that are not directly academic and happen in the classroom. So the related services include counseling, speech and language therapy, occupational therapy. Those all fall under the umbrella of related services.
I'm thinking of recovery services.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Recovery services applied to students with disabilities, right?
That's right. So recovery services refer to the efforts to provide special education services to students who didn't receive special education services during remote learning during the pandemic. So for example, if a child was required to receive bilingual counseling by a bilingual certified counselor during the pandemic and during remote learning, and they didn't receive any counseling during that time. As an example, the, special education recovery services were efforts by the Department of Education to provide those students with kind of like makeup time in those services.
Are we still offering that this year? I mean, my impression is that was a pandemic stimulus funded.
That's right.
So that's gone away.
That's right.
This year. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Oh yeah.
Any other questions on the IEP data from anyone? Okay. Thank you, Yona, for looking at that and reviewing that and leading the way on that. Really appreciate it. Next, we're going to get to public speaking, but I have to do one more administrative thing. I apologize for wasting our time with another 1 minute, but I realized that we have to retake that last vote. I can't officially call a vote as the chair of the meeting. So it was the vote to add more than 5 people to the response to fair student funding. So again, just to be formal about this, we've got to redo that vote. So someone else has to call for a motion to make a vote and someone else has to second it. And then I will do the roll call. I'd like to make a motion to call the vote on adding more names to the fair student funding response.
Oh, I want to add a motion to add full council signatures to the fair student response. Fair student funding response.
Is there a second? Okay, thank you. Kevin second. So Elizabeth proposes, Kevin second. And now I will do the roll call vote. Steve Stowe. So Steve Stowe, I vote yes. Jennifer Hugh.
Yep. Yes.
Jen, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yes.
Great, thanks. Elizabeth?
Yes.
Vito is excused. Marie is excused. Li Ping?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Kevin?
Yes.
Maya, I believe, is not here. Yona?
Yes.
Gada?
Yes.
Awesome. And I think that's okay. Thank you for bearing with me. Sorry about that. And then finally, we have our public speaking session tonight. So I'm going to reread the rules for signing up for public speaking. I'm just going to reread the rules and questions for public comment. Oh. Should be, yeah. There's a sign up sheet. Kevin, can you just put the sign up sheet? If you haven't, I haven't seen. Can you just drop the sign up sheet in the chat one more time? We will start with public comment based on the individuals who have signed up on the sign up sheet on the Google form. We will also take public comment from the language lines if there is anyone on the interpreters lines who would like to speak. And then if anyone is dialed in using their phone, you can press *9 to be connected. And just a few reminders, we have 3 minutes for public comment. And I think that's all I need to say about that. So Kevin, what is the first, who's the first?
The first person is Saglara.
And Kevin, if you see them in the, you can sort of direct this if you want. If you see them, you can ask, you can read their name. I'm going to mute myself and you can sort of, if you see them in the chat, or you can ask them to unmute themselves.
Yeah, I believe she's not here. So
Okay.
we can go next person. And that is Erizen, which I also believe was not here. I checked earlier. Erizen, maybe by a different name. No. And we have Masamet Rahman, who I do believe is in the chat.
Actually, I'm going to unmute. Kevin, what's the name?
Masamet Rahman. No.
Can you spell, what's the first?
First name is Musammat.
I don't see them in the meeting participant list.
Okay. And the last person we have is Paulette Healy, which I know is here. So we can ask on you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I wanted to address the open letter about the Fair Student Funding recommendations, because I'm a member of the Fair Student Funding Working Group, and no outreach was done to myself or to Ellen McHugh, who are two members in District 20, who worked very hard in trying to come up with comprehensive recommendations for an inequitable formula. If you had, we would have been able to tell you that our hands were tied because the DOE refused to allow us to talk about the actual money that's coming from the state, and they wanted us to work on a zero-sum model. So if we want to create a weight for students in temporary housing, if we want to increase base foundation for all schools so that they can comprehensively hire a social worker, a nurse, and a guidance counselor without it affecting their overall budget, it has to come from somewhere in the existing model that the DOE forced us to do. So please consider that. And trying to say that we're taking away from specialized schools when the specialized schools are already given an additional weight per student, while our local community high schools are struggling to find an ICT teacher is what the real life situation is. So please think about that when you're putting out information like this, because the resources are there. Lastly, Yona, thank you for, bringing the situation that is going on within our schools in District 20 and in terms of compliance. I will say, I and myself and my colleague Ellen McHugh are members of the Citywide Council on Special Education, and we've actually spoken to schools and spoken to principals in districts all across the city. And a lot of the times these compliance issues are coming from staffing, which again goes back to school budgets. So I have to say, if you want to dig deeper into this data and think about comprehensively how we can support our students overall in this district, starting with pre-K. The Citywide Council on Special Education has helped many of our IEP members on CECs to create the special education committees under their umbrella, and to actually do more of the deep dive with the community itself. So you can actually get the voices of the related service providers who are struggling with this, with the teachers, with the administrators, and the parents that are struggling with this. So if you want, you already have my email, you can reach out to us, and we are more than happy to help you launch that, because I think it's much needed, especially as we continually see every year how the students with disabilities population increases incrementally every year. So I'm extending my my hand out to you if you want the additional support. I don't want to speak for Ellen, but we will make sure that you continue getting the notices for our meetings so that you can learn more about what the DOE is doing for special education in general. And just as finally, I just want to say thank you, Superintendent Prado. For the first time in a very, very long time, we actually have a superintendent who is willing to amplify the needs of our L students, our students with disabilities, and our bilingual students in general all across the district. So I thank you for that. And I'm very sorry I can't be at PS 69 because PS 69 is actually one of my favorite schools in the district.
Thank you. That's it. Cool. And are there any on the interpretation lines? in the Arabic lines or the Mandarin or Spanish lines? Are there any individuals there that would like to make a comment? Interpreters, if you could just, if it's no, just let me know so we can move on.
No questions.
No,
No questions in
no
the Spanish line.
questions.
Great, thank you so much. I think that is it for the calendar meeting. I am going to make a motion to adjourn. Well, I can't make motions. Is there a motion to adjourn the calendar meeting?
I motion to adjourn the calendar meeting.
Is there a second? All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
And let me just make a quick announcement. Our next meeting is it December 16th? That sound right? I'm just pulling up for everyone's benefit. The next meeting is December 14th. The next CEC calendar meeting will be December 14th at IS 201, the newly renamed Madeline Brennan School. So please join us then. And with that, we will adjourn the November calendar meeting. We will take a 5-minute break and then come back for the CEC business meeting. We'll start that about 8:36 or so. So thank you, everyone. You can pause the recording, Kevin. I can pause it. I'm calling the meeting to order at 8:39.